to continue on another video. I hesitated a lot about starting this one. I think primarily because I was doing really good and I felt that I was feeling very aligned and in tune with myself, and then I woke up with the fever, really big headache, migraine, and a bunch of other icky stuff going on. So I woke up feeling really sick, and in a lot of ways I started looking at that and being so surprised. I was like, well, I'm doing great, I'm feeling awesome, things are working out in life, I'm moving forward and moving somewhere or whatever in myself, or feeling like me for once in quite a while. And then it hit, the sickness, which was challenging. It has been challenging. I'm just getting better now. But it was a very enlightening process. But I think first what I really feel like I want to do is share a poem, because I feel like there's a lot of relevancy to this poem, or in this poem, to the experience that's happening internally for me. So it's called Another Mind Open. There was a fire where smoke gathered and danced like rivers without gravity, to the rattle of drums. Sometimes I would look inside the smoke, but it curled away and covered itself with a cloak so opaque I could only cry. Became the mask of its consumption, the dream of its new life, with the victorious skin always changing yet everlasting. There was a fire last night that proclaimed news of a newer testament, that drinks tears, lies, vile words even, the deep fears that linger underneath the turncoat. I usually lurch away when it calls. To me, it burns too cold, like a skinwalker lost in body, devoured by time. Sometimes I would dream it alive, and it would blaze, vibrant sun more durable than a grave. In times of stillness, it would speak like a codicil of some lidless dream that words could not preserve. The time has come to lift your gaze from the fire's brightness and cast shadows of your own. The words would echo into oblivion like stars lost in the swell of the sun's awakening. In these flames I see my consumption fit and proper. In its smoke I'm stored away like so many jars in a broom closet, waiting to flee. Drawing my feet to oppose the floor, struggling to reach the door inside these jars of sealed air. Stories escape the writer's hand and pursue me, as though I alone held their vigil, their very soul, when indeed these stories have never been told. They have never found words to hold, though they ceaselessly try. Fires blind nature, they invest their life in her death. But the end is always the beginning towards another end, and the dream of the untold, always pursuing another mouth, another hand, another mind open. Sometimes I look to their errant expression of hope and ask it to bring its flames deeper into my heart, to burn a clear sense of purpose, to burn away the fool's crevice, and enshroud me in its skin of smoke. Sometimes I offer myself to these flames, and know they listen, devising my world. Reality coalesces around their finery, like a tower of glass enclosed with a shell of steel. Sometimes I feel the flames send me words, notes, tones, enchantment, products of another kind, tiny crucibles of earth that burn so brightly they can blind the sun's creatures of whimsy. And sometimes, without even thinking, I peek into these flames, when the smoke peels away. For an instant, there behind the mask is my future, our future, the future, the present in another world, calling out for another mouth, another hand, another mind open. This poem is by a man named James, in this book here, which is the collected work of the Wingmakers. It's a really amazing book, very philosophical, also very fantasy-based in a lot of ways. If it's real or not real, I think is very dependent on the reader and what they choose to believe. But there's a lot of creative intensity, creative beauty within the book. And I read that poem today, and I felt very inspired. It resonated so much with the fear that again came up as I was experiencing myself going, ah, what is happening again? Like, I'm doing well, and then boom, I'm knocked on my feet, and some aspect of spirit or some aspect of life has showed me this pain again, and this suffering, and you know, like, it brings up this feeling almost distraught and confused, and even again to the victim of reality, or the victim of circumstance that's happened. And I was beginning to look at it in a very negative way, like, oh, this is just always going to happen. I'm just always going to wind up like finding these hurdles and having to, you know, get wrapped up in them and then pull myself out only to kind of trudge along a little more and find myself in these hurdles again. And obviously making these videos and obviously expressing myself in this way is very relevant. It's something I feel called to do, and it's because it's relevant, it's valid to the experience of reality for me. Expressing myself through these videos is challenging and also very healing, very motivating, because when I look at it and I look at the way that society operates, I find that perhaps I should or could or something, you know, differently, have something differently, have something different planned in these videos. Like, I might have an absolute direction that I'm heading, or I might be trying to teach you or heal or entertain or anything, but really what I'm trying to do is express, and through that expression be aligning in myself and aligning to the truth and aligning to the intuition or the insight that comes in. And so when I look at the whole thing as when I look at like my whole past week basically, and the startup of like coming out of feeling really afraid and also going through a lot of changes, and then, you know, getting excited and getting motivated and, you know, coming up with ideas and what to write and start writing and writing more and all of these torrents and torrents of stories and inspiration coming in. And then also being less affected by the dramas, the dynamics that are going on around me, my living situation or with work or with whatever it is, even globally, the things that are happening, which are a lot, a lot of things going on. Felt very centered and very in tune. And so I decided to do this, and then, you know, I was just feeling very, very flowing, very joyous, very present. But then, you know, there's always those moments, there's always those little small places in your mind or in your feeling, you know, that come up and come through certain times of the day. Maybe when you're bored, or maybe when you're triggered by something, a circumstance, something circumstantial that comes in, and it will bring up anxiety, or bring up fear, or it'll bring up some sort of pain trigger that induces a reaction. And I feel that the reason why, as I was feeling so great and then I became sick, was that whatever it is, these internal factors that induce those reactions, these things that are embedded within our psyche and that are really deep and that, you know, might be so deep that they're easily covered up, but they're not easily processed, they're not easily released, and so they are affecting how we behave and how we interact through our lives in different ways, in subtle ways, in noticeable or unnoticeable ways, depending on self-awareness, I think. And getting sick for me brought them up to surface more. It brought up all of these anxieties that I faced about not really having an ambition in who I want to be, in this identity that I want to create for myself in life, and also feeling very inwardly judgmental and like very inwardly critical. And in that internal dialogue, in that internal process, I work on a lot. I work on meditation and breathing and loving myself and like, deciding, taking that initiative, taking that stance as a self, as a person, that this conditioning that I have isn't mine, isn't me. It begins to change, but they're still there. There's still these things that are inside, and instead of feeling like a victim to being sick, to feeling physical pain, I decided to work with it, to breathe with it, and to allow myself again to further acknowledge and experience the difficult sensation of an illness, and also go through which will lie into the idea of not being motivated, but also the pressure of like needing to be motivated and needing to create an identity, and then seeing myself react where it's like all of a sudden this goes up because I'm stuck in bed, I can't do anything, but there's all these things, I get all of this pressure from myself going, but you're in bed, now you can write, or you're in bed, now you can work on this book you're going to write, or you can really start to cultivate this stuff, but there's no energy, so then the pressure goes on, and it's like pressure, 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 and so I just had to surrender, and I also had to release that pull, and the difference that I notice in myself at this point is it has been a very sobering experience again. I feel most times when I get really open, I get so excited and so excitable, and my energy is just running on super level high, and I'm go, 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 but the energy seems to just sort of out. And it tends to just overtake me completely, to the point where I don't have any grounding in it. I'm just elevated up in it, and then I'm just blowing around in this torrent hurricane, and then the energy's burned out. And basically most times nothing's accomplished, or lots of things are accomplished, but in the sense of physical accomplishment, it seems null. And from being in this sobering place, I see that I don't have to, when I'm feeling good, expand myself in such a way in order for that good to be noticed, or to be seen, to be felt. It's a balance that needs to take place. And a balance that needs to take place only in the sense of polarity, only in the sense of, you can't go into one extreme without the other extreme crashing back down, or, returning back to the other extreme. So if you're in a constant state of flexion from this crazy, excited, ecstatic, high energy extreme, you're going to return to this depleted, negative, dark, absolutely lifeless, other extreme. And that middle point is just completely skipped over. And that middle point is that grounding, that centering, and that actually standing and being present, which you can reach at either side. It's just going to make the experience intensified, immensely intensified, and I don't know how long anyone can operate bouncing back and forth between one and the other. So that sobering realization is knowing that it's okay to be calm. And it's okay to be quiet. And it's okay to be just who you are. It's okay to be centered in that. And it's so often that I forget that it's not about the exterior, and it's not about the impression that's being made in either aspect. It's not about being the victim, and it's not about being the victor. When experience is centered, and when a person, individual, is centered, there's a sense of unity that arises out of that centering. There's an actual feasible aspect of just being in a body that can't help but be noticed. So like when I'm in that extreme of being too excitable and so excited and so energized and so whatever, and I find it's very often even in like my dance as I get to that place, I don't even find it necessary to be present with others or to be present in a grounded way. So with that, then there's no relation, and there's even no relation to self in a sense, or to self in connection with others. It's more of an extreme that misses things. It's like a hyper-awareness that isn't, like the alerts aren't on, the connections aren't made there. And the same thing with the opposite is it's a muted awareness where again the connections aren't made. Everything is dull, nulled, almost like nil, almost empty and gone. And so yeah, it's kind of a great feat to understand that within myself, to see those extremes and see how I've been so comfortable for years going from one extreme to the other, one extreme to the other. And it's not that I'm necessarily comfortable in it, but it's become a habitual pattern, a habitual process, way of being, state of being for me. And that returns to that inner judge and that inner critic. And then somewhere along the line, I developed this idea that to be calm